Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another garden tour, and check out my brand new table. I'm so excited about it. It gets still very hot here, so I can't come out in the morning and drink my coffee out here unless I get out here pretty early. I think yesterday it got up to like 97 or 98. Really awful. And the rain has still been avoiding me. If you could see on a map the way the rain just like hits the lakes where I am and just kind of splits around the whole area, it's really, really maddening. But I've been watering, and so the garden looks pretty good, and I'm excited to show you guys what's going on. And Draco's over there being all cute. Alright guys, so let's go straight into it. Let's start with this arch here at the front. I actually don't know if I have any beans on it right now. This is a scarlet runner bean, and it has been really struggling to set fruit in the heat. A lot of plants, if it's too hot outside, will not set fruit. So a lot of you might see this with your tomatoes, just flowers and flowers and flowers, but no real fruit. It could be because of heat, it could be pollination. I have been seeing these bugs all over them though. They're called kudzu beetles, kudzu bugs, I don't know, something like that. And yeah, they are invasive. They are everywhere. But they don't seem to be eating leaves really. It's hard to say. Hopefully this little population boom will attract some predators. Recently, I've been doing these rotating segments at the end of my garden tours, and this week I really wanted to do insects in the garden in July, but as I started looking around for them, there are so many, I've decided to go ahead and make that its own separate video so you can watch for that to come out, and I'll talk more about the relationship between those kudzu bugs and the predators that are around to eat them. Alright, moving on to my tomato row. You can see in the midst of it some actually giant pole bean leaves. This is my blue cocoa pole bean. And as we look along here, we can see some ripe tomatoes kind of peeking out everywhere. And the closer you get, the more you see. And there's a crap ton of them on the ground too, which not ideal because the bugs do tend to get to them down there, which is why I do generally try and trellis my tomatoes up. But this whole situation, if you've been here, you've heard this was a determinate tomato that I accidentally put in my indeterminate space. And so I didn't want to prune it the way that I was pruning my indeterminates, but I also didn't have the right support structure for it, so it is just kind of falling down in the spots where it can't be attached to the support. And that's disappointing. I am losing some fruit, but honestly, the total amount of fruit on this plant, like if you didn't ever see the ones that were eaten, you wouldn't even notice. I'm getting like, I don't know, tens, hundreds even of these. All the way down here at the end on the sidewalk side, first of all, the grass getting away from me as far as keeping it back. But I did want to show you my marshmallow plant. It is starting to flower, and that is gorgeous. Oh, look at that, buddy. That is a Japanese beetle up under that leaf. I'll have to do some research on whether or not I can actually harvest that marshmallow this year, or if I have to wait for it to go another year before the root is big enough, because that's what you really want from a marshmallow plant is the root. So my pole beans over here are having the same problem that the scarlet runner beans are. You can see these were really young beans and they just shriveled up because hot and dry. You can see it's still trying to make vines up there, so it's still a pretty healthy plant. It just is struggling to put the effort and the water into making good healthy fruits, unfortunately. On the one hand, this dryness is like kind of good for sweet tomatoes. Stress on the plants actually means that more sugars get concentrated in the fruit, and that can make for sweeter fruit, obviously. But there's like a balance with it, right? Like too much stress and then the plant actually starts to get sick and then won't make as big of fruits and etc., etc. So I think with me watering right now, we're probably just teetering on the edge of like the good amount of stress for these plants. I'm not going to walk all the way through here because there is a spider friend right here that I don't want to disturb, but you can see all those red tomatoes up in there. I need to come through again and pick. I've already made 10 jars of tomato sauce, 6 jars of salsa, and another 5 jars of diced tomatoes, as well as eating them fresh. And obviously I still have so much more to go. I'm also like halfway through filling up my first jar of sun-dried tomatoes, which I'm very excited about. I did have some go moldy on me, so it's a little bit of a setback, but I'm hopeful. The zinnias are very popular right now. You almost can't find a flower without pollinators all over them. Speaking of the flowers, let's take a step back and just look at them. This is why I plant zinnias. They are such beautiful colors. They keep blooming. I don't even have to deadhead them. They just keep going all summer until the first frost. They will be bright and colorful like this. And then they attract all these lovely, lovely butterflies and bees to the garden. I think this one is a painted lady. Let's see the side of it. Yeah, that's a painted lady. So as we look down along this second row, some things that I want to show you guys. I actually do have some sweet peppers coming on. This plant could use a little bit more water. Sweet peppers, and I've tested a couple of them. They are actually sweet. Remember, I wasn't entirely sure if these were true to type because they do not look like the type that I thought I planted. But they are definitely sweet peppers, so whatever shape they are, doesn't matter. Happy to have them. Some of them are very cute and take on this little shape here. This is the shape I would expect from a Lesa pepper, but the purple tinge to it is not at all what I would expect. So this one's probably crossed as well. Oh my goodness. I actually just found my very first little eggplant. Oh, so cute. This plant, these have been struggling since they were born, basically. That poor, poor soil. But yeah, we've got our first little fruit, and hopefully this continued growth over the rest of the summer. Luckily, I have a very long season. Hopefully these plants get big and produce a few more for me. It honestly really sucks that the sweet peppers and the eggplant were the most affected, because this year I planted so many extra of them because I was like, I really want a lot of this produce this year, and then the universe thwarted me. So I will learn my lesson. I will test my bagged soil every time, and next year will be the year. This is so beautiful. These are also, we're starting to get into hot peppers here. I'm noticing some of them are not having trouble putting on fruit at all, and others seem to be struggling a little bit with the heat. Like, we've got plenty of Tabasco around here. And then the Sugar Rush peaches, actually, they're showing the first signs of a disease that I need to come in and treat. My peppers get this a lot. It's probably coming up from the soil. And usually what I've been doing that seems to help but not like fully cure is I spray organic Rev on it. That's the sorry, a bee buzzed on my head and I lost my train of thought. Organic Rev is the it's like all the good bacteria cocktail that I use on my garden. I am an affiliate for them. Links are always below for 10% off. But I really like them because it acts like a fertilizer. It's like supercharges your plant's growth, but also because it's like full of good bacteria, it helps strengthen the plant's immune system. And I have found that it does a really good job when you see like obvious disease of like boosting up your plant's natural defenses. Like, you don't have to go out killing anything. You just have to put this good bacteria on there and let the plants kind of heal themselves. Whether it's fungal or bacterial, I haven't super been able to decide, but the reason I don't want to spray anything on it that is like going to kill things is because those are generally broad spectrum, right? Like you can't kill one specific type of fungus very easily. You have to kind of kill fungi in general. Same with bacteria. And unless you're willing to pay for very specific drugs, like, you know, sometimes we use those in people, but it's kind of rare even then, you'd end up killing a lot of stuff, and it creates this imbalance. You kill the good and the bad. And I would like to help my plant fight off exclusively the bad. I'm going to try and remember, though, that my Sugar Rush peach seem to have got it first and are potentially more susceptible than other plants. So I might not plant them again because, like, once it gets up into them, it starts getting on the leaves of everything else. And maybe if I didn't have these, the pathogen would have a much harder time getting up into the peppers in the first place. I recently pulled from this Buena Mulata pepper for salsa the other day. We've still got some more beautiful peppers on here. These are the ones that ripen all the way to a bright, bright orange, which is so pretty. And they've got these gorgeous purple flowers too. Look at that. I love this plant. My partner loves to say, whenever I tell him about something new that I've grown in the garden, he can almost guarantee that it's going to be a very normal thing, except the purple version. Unsurprisingly, I haven't dealt with this area yet. It's mostly empty except for the one Brussels sprout that I need to take the seeds off of. And there's a zinnia back in here. Ideally, I would like to plant something here, but my time is starting to run out for certain things. So either I need to reevaluate what I'm planting here, or I need to get my rear in gear. I could just save it for root vegetables, I suppose. I'm not going to be able to get carrots in this area because the soil is not quite soft enough, but maybe rutabagas. All the way at the back here, I've got my lemongrass in here and one of my 2 feverfew plants. It is starting to actually make seeds. This is a perennial. This will come back. This would be a perennial if it was going to be warm enough over the winter. This spot actually seems to not be as good for it as it was last year, or it could also just be the insane drought taking its toll on it. But I did overwinter this. It was a cutting from my one last year, and it seems to have taken off pretty well. Alright, we're back at the front of row 3, and we are going to look at the noodle beans. With the watering, I've been able to get a few more of these. They seem to be holding up to the drought better than the other beans, like they're still setting their fruit, but they're not immune to being kind of small and dried out if I don't water. So you can see kind of some of the ones that are post-watering, and they look a lot healthier. And excitingly, I think this second trellis might actually be starting to fill out. You can see coming up here, my first blue butterfly pea that has made it into the vining stage. I think it grew like 1.5 feet over the last week, and it has started putting on these absolutely gorgeous blue flowers, like just wow. I also have cucumbers finally starting to vine out, so that's exciting. I've been waiting for cucumbers because I really want to make pickles. And it took a while to get here. I have not thinned them out the way I said I would. It just feels bad. I work so hard to get all these plants to sprout, and you can see like these ones very stunted compared to these ones, which were all the same size not that long ago. And back past that trellis, I've got my backup sweet peppers. I also pulled quite a few from these for my salsa the other day. And in general, they seem to be doing alright. I had kind of expected them to be getting bigger by now, but again, drought. That Brussels sprout that I left because I couldn't get rid of it, it definitely cannot handle the drought or the heat. It's a lesson. Brussels sprout did not make it through the summer. Corn though, corn is starting to tassel. I think I might have mentioned that last week. It is a little short, but once again, I can't really find good information on how tall this variety is supposed to get anyway. So I guess we will see how the corn forms. This last row doesn't have just a ton to look at, to be honest. There's a few things here and there. I've got a pepper plant here that's still staying kind of small. Another one here, some zinnias. There's a couple basils in here. They're also pretty small. They're really struggling. I think between the shade and the lack of water, they're just having a bad time. The cosmos are still blooming, but the blooms don't look nearly as nice as they did at the beginning of the season. I haven't been deadheading these either, mostly because I am a lazy gardener. And yeah, I just let the plants do what they're gonna do. They decided to be here on their own in the first place anyway. But I do like to keep tabs on how they're doing and watch them from year to year and look for differences. At the front where I planted those extra tomatoes though, we are starting to get little fruits. These will probably have the same problem that those other ones do with, a lot of the ones on the ground being eaten by bugs. But there wasn't really anything else good going on in this space anyway. I mean, I do have a couple of turmerics, but honestly, I have not used this row of my garden as well as I could have this year. I've been excessively lazy about it, and I've just kind of let the weeds be here. But yeah, we might get some tomatoes out of this spot. What's up, buddy? Aww. What a cute boy. As we've been over here, a lot of my shade has moved. You can see where the edge of the house is. So we are going to kind of run through the hot part of the tour. For those of you who might have missed last week, this grape actually finally came up. I thought it was fully dead, but it turns out it was not. So that's exciting. It is much harder to consistently water this whole area because it's not on drip irrigation. I did talk about my hose the other day, and it has made this easier than it would be if I was just using a watering can. But you can definitely see the stress in these plants from getting too hot a sun for too long with not enough water. I think if it was either not as hot or we were actually getting water, these plants would be doing better than they are. But both of those things combined, even my thyme has been getting real crunchy. It's still alive. You can see some leaves, but it's lost a lot. It's not happy. And this raised bed, not looking great either. This is the one that had some of that bad soil in it, so everything in it is a little stunted. I feel very lucky that the marshmallow I planted in here is actually going somewhere. My little calendula over here has one flower on it, whereas this one, planted at the same time, very different. Yarrow seems to be doing all right here. It's even making little babies already. And my asparagus has continued to be okay. So I think with plenty of compost over the top of this, maybe in the fall, this raised bed, some of the perennials in it will be able to recover. These poor sweet potatoes though. The deer didn't want to go near my big garden, so instead they came and decimated the sweet potatoes. If you look in here though, you can start finding new leaves, and then you see, okay, maybe there's some hope. If we get rain, there might be hope. This spider just caught one of those moths that was flying around. This one is a yellow garden spider. You can kind of see the remnants of the squiggle in the middle of her web. And sometimes these ones will have a much smaller male nearby them. They're pretty harmless. I know they look super scary, especially if you don't know where they are and you come upon them by accident, but even though they are venomous, they almost never bite. You would have to be seriously threatening their life for them to bite. and if they do bite you, generally it's only as bad as a bee sting, according to the internet. I've never been bitten. Coming over to the berry patch, you can see I'm struggling to water enough for these blueberries. Some of the ones that have been here longer and have deeper roots are doing better. And the strawberries also majorly struggling. And, there's only so much water I can invest into this area before it doesn't make sense anymore. But I have been able to water enough to get things like the blackberries to start making new healthy looking fruit. You can see some of the stuff that dried up when I wasn't watering, and the raspberries as well were making new fruit. I think they're kind of stopping for the time being, and will pick up again in the fall. Some of this death is just, it's a fruited branch that is done. It's done its time. And some of this might be just a little bit of that drought damage. But I think this is about the time that the raspberries should be slowing down anyway. And then this last section back here, you can see probably in the grass where I've been watering, like this section of the grass looks great and everything else is like fully dead and dying, because right along this row is where my citrus and my figs are. And even with the watering, hold up, I'll show you this first. This one is flowering. Anybody who grows citrus, tell me, should I let it flower when it's this size, or should I pluck them off so it can grow better? The fig that I had in the pot for a couple of years, that seems to be doing well. And if we come all the way down to my new fig, I think it might be dead. It's very unfortunate. This was one that was sent to me, hi Kata, from a viewer, and luckily they sent two, and the other one that I planted more in the shade actually is still alive and is looking good. So thank goodness for that. And I guess there's always a small chance that, the rootstock is still alive and it'll try to come back when the conditions are better, but I don't know. Over here is that other fig. Seems to be doing much better than the other one. It's even starting to put on new growth at the tips there. My elderberry over here is also suffering from the heat. It's unclear to me if it's dropped its leaves because of the heat or if the deer also got to it. But either way, it looks like it's struggling quite a bit too. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy gardening!